These are reminders and tips for the project House Windows. Now, in the end, you are going to turn in 6 images altogether. These images could be JPEG or PNG files, meaning you're going to be turning in an original image of the house window and then the altar where you have the windows cut out and then the background is replaced, or what's beyond the windows is replaced with a fantastical image. When you download it from the internet, you won't be able to use the WEBP files, but if it's a JPEG or PNG, doesn't matter. Also, when you export, you could also export as either a JPEG or a PNG as long as you have the correct names. As you can see here, your first one will be a house interior with large pane windows that will be named either interior window original for the image that you find on the internet, and then once you change it, you will export it as interior window altered. Then you'll do an exterior window with large pane windows. That will be called exterior window original and exterior window altered. And finally, the multi-pane windows, either interior or exterior, doesn't matter. And then you could do multi-pane window original. And actually, I made a mistake here. This should be altered. Glad I caught that. Okay, now moving on to choosing your images. Don't forget that when you choose your images, you're looking for a minimum of 1000 px in either width or height. It doesn't have to be a minimum of both width and height, and it does not have to equal exactly 1000 in one direction. So either width or height can be a minimum of 1000 px. It is not exact. When you're looking for these windows, notice that sometimes you'll have an object in the way. If you do, you must cut around that object. This one would be easy to cut around because it is straight lines there. Over here, though, you'd have a little bit harder time because it's a rounded table. It's not impossible. The best thing to do is find a window that is a little bit more easy for you to do, such as this one. There's only this tiny corner here that may or may not be in the way. I'd have to zoom in to look at it. This one has nothing in the way. Make sure that you don't cut through anything like bars. That's what I'll be looking for when I'm looking at the original versus the cut. Some people in previous years have just cut right through these bars. Also, notice that if you have any rounded corners, this makes it a little bit more difficult. Again, not impossible, but the straighter the window line, the easier it's going to be. Just like I said over here, that cutting around some objects might be difficult. This is extremely difficult, and I do not recommend this at all. In fact, I'm saying don't do something like this where you would have to cut around these flowers. This one's just a completely bad idea. Notice the difference between large pane windows. That's a large pane window. Here's a large pane window. And then multi-pane windows where we have these smaller wood pieces in between the panes. This is a multi-pane window and this is a multi-pane window. But just like I was mentioning on this one here, this has a lot of rounded corners and that's a lot more difficult to work on. So I would recommend not doing something like these two images here and just aiming for images that do have straighter cuts such as this. Now moving over into Photoshop here, make sure that your image is not too small when you're working on it. This is too small. Zoom in. Remember, you could zoom in by either using your little zoom tool right here, or you could also hold down Command on your keyboard and click plus. If you zoom in too far, it's actually not so good to work on. So keep a little bit out. But if you do need to move around and you're using your polygon lasso tool, you're cutting around and you need to move it for whatever reason. So I've cut here and cut here. There's not really a reason I need to move here. But even though I have this tool selected, this polygon lasso tool, I could press the space bar on my keyboard. I'm going to do it right now. It changes to a hand, and now I can move the image around. Now, if you make a mistake, such as I have here, just click escape. That's the very upper left corner of your keyboard. It's ESC is the escape key, and that'll allow you to start over. Or if, for instance, and I don't know why it would be like this, but if, for instance, you actually close it off and you get that dashed line, escape won't work. I'm pressing escape, it's not working. You'll have to deselect it. And how you do that is going up to the drop down menu that says select and click on deselect, or alternatively, if you remember, Command D, D for deselect. I'm going to do that now. I'm holding down Command and pressing D. That deselects it as well. Remember to cut around anything that is not the window. Even this little thing right here, you might want to cut around that. And then you're going to replace the background. I'm going to end this first part of the video, and then I'm going to go into the second part to talk about all the steps of the process once you have your images, what you would do to complete each of these assignment pieces.